So I want to just take a step back. Let's really think about what does it mean to think of attention as a commodity. Let's think about attention as a line, as a fluctuating number that changes every single day. And what contributes to that number? When you take a step back and look at the conversations that we're having today, you can see this excitement about social media that is similar to the excitement that people have had over stocks. And so it's very interesting to think about the notion that we actually view social media and following people's attention as this sort of commodity that's sort of equivalent to the stock market. You know, it's like if you come into work and someone says, "Hey, I heard about this next new thing. It's really going to take off, this exciting new business." People flock to that and they talk about it. And we're doing that today for different social media platforms. You know, we talk about how effective Facebook ads are right now, but that might not always be that way. That might go away. And LinkedIn has this big organic growth right now that you have to latch on to and take advantage of because that might go away too. And then we started hearing about Instagram. You know, you'd be sitting there at the bar and the person next to you would be like, "I don't use Facebook anymore. I'm all about Instagram these days." And so we had that shift into that. And then everybody's talking about TikTok as this effective way of trying to get people's attention, particularly in music. So so you could see that there's this sort of gold rush going on where we're trying to find attention and we're viewing attention as this commodity. And people who are involved in this, if their expertise is in this particular ad platform and then that isn't going to do as well, they can really freak out and it has a big impact on them. Influencers on Instagram can freak out by changes in the algorithm or changes in the rules, like if they're removing likes, because they're based entirely on that platform. And people who build their skills on one medium have a lot to lose if that one medium starts to go away. If they have a YouTube channel, for example, about tips on how to be successful on Instagram, and then Instagram starts to fall out of flavor, then their entire personal brand that's built on that one platform is at stake. And the pain and the worries that they have is similar to the things that people would have if they invested in a stock that wasn't doing well. So I want to just take a step back. Let's really think about what does it mean to think of attention as a commodity. Let's think about attention as a line, as a fluctuating number that changes every single day. And what contributes to that number? So in the entire global perspective, there's a certain amount of attention that is available on the earth at a given moment. And it's a number, and it fluctuates, and what drives changes in that number? So at the most basic level, the amount of people on Earth changes that number. The more people there are, the more attention would be available. Other factors would be how much sleep did they get? If they got a lot of sleep, then they have a higher quality of attention to allocate things. Other factors would be the access to food and the access to a balanced meal, balanced diet. So if they have energy, then they have more attention to give. So all of these sort of basic kind of fundamental human factors will contribute to this number that indicates the amount of attention that exists at a given moment. Now, the next factor, that number would be subdivided into these different areas. And the first important subdivision would be whether people are attending externally to the outside world or whether they're attending internally. So a lot of people who are trying to influence others, advertisers, marketers, and so on, they're obviously interested in people directing their attention to the outside world where they can be influenced. And there are cultural differences in how attention could potentially be distributed either inside yourself or outside in the world. For example, meditation is popular in some cultures more than others, and that generally focuses on internal attention, and it's a sort of recipe for trying to remove yourself from distractions and being more person-focused or internal-focused. If you're surrounded by flashing lights and billboards, then the degree in which you can successfully attend internally to your own thoughts would be diminished compared to if you live in a place that's more simpler where you have less of those distractions. So certain characteristics about the culture and the environment are also going to influence how much gets allocated to the outside world and how much gets allocated internally. And there's really interesting discussions that we're having right now on the importance of internal attention and being with yourself and collecting your thoughts, because people have a really hard time with just sitting there alone in their thoughts. There's studies that came out that showed that they would rather have something happen than nothing happen, even if that something was something bad. There's even a dramatic study that came out that people would actually like to self-administer shocks than sit there without anything to do or anything to experience or be distracted by. So among the attention that's distributed to the outside world, this is really where marketers and people trying to have conversations and to influence others comes into play. And so that's the question of, we've had these societal changes where we used to focus on the radio, and then the radio gave way to television. So a lot of people's attention was directed toward the TV. And then the internet came along. And then so it was websites. And then it actually became apps. And so these are really important questions that we're trying to figure out, is just the notion that, the website might not be a powerful place of finding information anymore. It could be apps. And then you have to consider the amount of attention that's distributed among the social media apps. And that's what I alluded to before about how the conversations that we have about how effective these different apps are in terms of engaging people and getting exposure, and how that's just demonstrates how important people value those in terms of influencing people and getting attention. So just to summarize this video, we just, as a sort of thought experiment, tried to come up with a notion that there's a numerical value for the amount of attention that people have to allocate within any given moment, and that numerical value fluctuates based on factors like the amount of people that exists, how much sleep they've got, their access to food and balanced meal, and then that number can be distributed into attention that's directed internally or externally. And when it's directed externally, you can be influenced by pieces of information, which consists of all the different ways that we can consume information, like radio, television, websites, and social media, and the real world interactions that we can have, and so on. And the attention allocated among them is constantly in flux as well. So thanks for checking out this video. We're going to be posting regularly on our psychological ideas. Hit the subscribe and the bell button if you'd like to learn more, and the like and the share if you'd like to share. Thanks for checking this out.